But let's start by showing you some of our other reporters who've been out talking about this game. Alexis Nunes has been with Andre Onana and Tom Hamilton speaking to Hadji right as we look ahead to Manchester United against Coventry.
Well, the other semi-final, of course, is an all-Premier League showdown. This is Premier League versus a championship team. But we know that when you do play lower division teams, they come with everything. This is the biggest night for them. It's been a while since United have played Coventry. I think you were 11 years old the last time they played them. So sometimes unfamiliar rivals make it difficult. So how do you approach this semi-final with Coventry?
Like a big final, not like a final of Champions League, because at the end of the day, it can be a tricky game. Because if you don't give them respect, they can be disrespectful. You know? So we're gonna face them like a Premier League team. You know, if they are there, that means they have a lot of quality. So we're gonna be ready for them. And for us, it's very important to win. And we are going there with the winning mentality. It's no way to lose this game against them. So we are going there very positive and with all of respect, but we must win.
What about Man United? Obviously, a huge club. Extremely famous, perhaps not having the best season by their own standards. What do you make of them as an opposition?
You know, it's a semi-final. It's one game. It could really go either direction. I think you have to take that into account. And I think they're obviously a big club with a lot of great players who've internationally club level tested and kind of been in these situations before and know how to play through them. But I think we'll spend our opportunities. Hopefully we can create a few good opportunities and hopefully make them feel the pressure a little bit.
We always use this phrase "giant killing," but Sunday, would be a huge game for you guys if you manage to beat Man United. What makes you guys so confident that you can topple them?
It's one game. Anything can happen in one game. It's not like we'll have to play them 10 times or whatever it may be. It's just one game. Anything can happen in one game.
Happen in one game. We just heard Andre Onana there, Rob, saying that they're treating this like a final. They're going to have to, because we're on upset watch here. How big an upset would it be if Coventry were to beat them?
Yeah, it would be massive. I mean, you know, Coventry are a championship side, a good championship side, but still a championship side, and United will be heavy favourites to win that game. So if they were to lose, it would be massive. It would be massive in terms of United's season. It would be massive in terms of Erik ten Hag's future as manager. I mean, the one thing that will give Coventry some kind of hope is that they know that they are going to get chances against Man United. I mean, Man United on paper should win this game. Like Hadji Wright just said, 99 times out of 100. But you never really know what you're going to get with Man United this season. They played Newport County in the FA Cup early in this season, eventually won that game 4-2. But Newport had 17 shots and they finished, or they're going to finish sort of mid-table in League Two. So that shows you that even against opposition that they should beat, they do give up a lot of chances. They're not great defensively. And we've seen in the last round, Coventry went to Wolves. Wolves are having a great season in the Premier League and went to Wolves and won 3-2 in really dramatic circumstances. And you can understand why Andre Onana is sitting there saying that he's going to treat this like a Champions League final, because to be honest, if they don't treat it like that, there's every chance that they may lose this game.
If they're not to advance, is that the end for Erik ten Hag, Rob?
I mean, yeah, possibly. Ineos have been quite clear with Erik ten Hag in that they don't want to judge him on one game. The season as a whole hasn't been great. You don't want to get in a position where you're judging him on one game against Coventry when anything could happen. You could have a man sent off in the first 2 minutes. You could get Coventry could get a dodgy penalty. So Ineos have been careful to say that Erik ten Hag will be judged on a wider sample size, but it certainly wouldn't look good. Wow. If Man United won the FA Cup, Erik ten Hag could stand in front of us and say, well, in a way this season has been a success because I finished it with a trophy. So if they weren't to win the FA Cup, they were to go out to Coventry in that way at Wembley on Sunday, coupled with everything that's happened in the Premier League, he would be on very, very thin ice.
Yanis?
Sure. I mean, I hear what you're saying. They don't want to judge him on one game. I mean, this has been an unbelievably terrible season. I mean, this is the worst season that I can remember. I mean, we'll get to Coventry because they're not in great form, but I mean, last 4 games, I mean, they haven't won in 4 games, and you can make a case they could have or should have lost all of those games, right? If you look at Bournemouth, if you look at Liverpool, if the one that they lost against Chelsea, right, in one game. I mean, Brentford, I sort of can't remember actually now, but they probably weren't all that good anyway. So this is, I mean, I would, if I were in charge, I'd definitely say, look, I mean, if he loses to that, how can you possibly keep him? And even if he gets to the final and say loses to Chelsea, who are very much like them in a way, right? So it's not the great Chelsea team, or to the big rivals Manchester City. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. I think short of winning this competition, I don't see how he keeps his job. And even then, I think you should sit down, if you're the brain trust of the entire operation, and say, really, I mean, is he going to be able to bounce from that? Is he going to be able to continue and develop players and get us higher in the table, at least in the Premier League next season? I mean, they're not making the Champions League. They're 13 points away from the fourth spot. I mean, 13 points. So I don't know. I think this for Ten Hag is for these players, by the way, as well, because I mean, they're part of the failure that has been Manchester United this season, in my opinion. So look, I mean, if you Coventry City, you honestly, seeing Manchester United, you give them the respect because you always do. It's still a massive club. It's at Wembley, and all of that. But I think if I was in that dressing room, having Haji Wright, 15 goals and 5 assists, having Ellis Sims with 13 goals. And that's what matters. I like goal scorers. If you're going to have a chance as a championship side, you better have at least one player that can score. They have 2 players that, as you said, Rob, can hurt them as well. So, look, Coventry's lost, 3 out of 5 since they've beaten Wolves in that great game. So they're not in great form, and they probably won't make the playoffs in the championship. But man, I'd be sitting there for Coventry City and saying to myself, if there's ever a time to get back to Wembley, this is it. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. No. Meanwhile, the other semi-final is Manchester United against Chelsea, an all Premier League affair. Ahead of it, Rob did catch up with Oscar Bob.
It's obviously a little bit of a disappointment last night. You've been around the players this morning. What's the mood like in the camp ahead of the Chelsea game on Saturday?
Obviously, everyone's very disappointed, especially in a game where we feel like we had the chances, we created the chances, and we're the better team, but unfortunately it didn't go our way. But I think it gives us a lot of motivation to bounce back on Saturday and get into a final.
I was about to say, it's a group that haven't really experienced with losing. Is it a group that finds it quite easy to put disappointments behind them and bounce back when you've got such a big game so quickly afterwards?
I think so. I think there's quite a few players that have been around for a long time. Yeah. I was thinking earlier about the Champions League exit. I think it was 2 years ago against Real Madrid away when they scored those 2 late goals. And even though that happened, that was the same season as Gundo scored late against Villa, and in a way that was what that season was remembered for. So I think there's still a lot of players that played in those games and still won that Premier League. And I think the group, if any group can do it, it will be this one.
There, Rob, what's your feeling on what we're going to see now? Are City even more dangerous given the way that they had to exit the Champions League against Real Madrid? And on top of that as well, there's been all that talk of Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne wanting to come off and Pep Guardiola making that public as well. So there just seems to be a lot going on right now there.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar makes a good point there in that the way they went out to Real Madrid 2 years ago was so dramatic, and then they were able then to go on and win the Premier League. Put that disappointment behind them and go on and finish the job in the Premier League. And I would expect them this season to go and finish the job in the Premier League. That said, I would be worried for them against Chelsea on Saturday. They played 120 minutes against Real Madrid. In extra time, they looked absolutely out on their feet. Guardiola regularly calls this week the worst week of the season because it's always the second leg of the Champions League quarter-final, followed by the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. City aren't happy at all that they were asked to play on Wednesday against Real Madrid and then have been given the Saturday semi-final. They think that they should have been given the Sunday semi-final and had a day's extra rest. You mentioned there about the players who came off against Real Madrid. De Bruyne had to come off, Haaland had to come off, Akanji had to come off. It means probably that Pep Guardiola is going to have to rotate his squad a little bit. Chelsea, meanwhile, have played on Monday, beaten Everton 6-0. Cole Palmer scored a hat-trick. They've had a whole week to prepare for this. I would really worry for City, even though on paper again, City should win this game because of their form in the Premier League. Chelsea haven't been great this season. But there's a lot of people at City, players included, who are looking at this game and thinking, we could really go out here. They beat Sheffield United in the FA Cup semi-final last season, but the 3 previous seasons they lost at this stage. They lost semi-finals to Liverpool, to Arsenal and to Chelsea. And Guardiola puts all that down to fatigue. He said that in all those games he had to rotate players. The other team were able to put a full-strength team out, and on the day they just didn't have enough. And Chelsea, again, just like Coventry in the other game, Coventry are looking at the Man United game thinking we've got a great chance here. Chelsea are looking at this City game on Saturday and thinking, if we're ever going to beat City in an FA Cup semi-final, this is it. We're fresh, we're ready, we're in some kind of form. City have had a disappointment on Wednesday. They all look absolutely shattered. Really, Chelsea have got a great chance of causing something of an upset here.
Just want to touch on the Cole Palmer point there, Rob, with you, because he's top of the Premier League charts right now, level with Haaland on goals scored, 20 at the moment. Would Man City take him back now?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, Pep Guardiola in his news conference today was asked the question, was it a mistake to let Cole Palmer go? And he kind of shrugged as if to say, well, yeah, obviously now, knowing what we know now that he's scored 20 goals in the Premier League and 23 in all competitions. The point that Guardiola made, though, was for 2 years, Cole Palmer's been asking to leave. He says that this isn't a situation where in the summer he knocked on the door and said, I need to go. Guardiola was adamant today in his news conference that for two seasons, Cole Palmer's been saying, I want to go. And that was all down to minutes. He wasn't getting the minutes at City that he's been getting at Chelsea. The final straw, apparently, for him was in the summer when Riyad Mahrez left to go to Saudi Arabia. He thought that was his chance probably to maybe get some real game time at City. And then City went out and bought Jeremy Doku anyway, who plays in a very similar position. And when Cole Palmer saw that Jeremy Doku was coming in, decided, well, that's it. I need to go. I need to go and find regular first-team football. At the time, City thought they got a great deal for Cole Palmer. He was a young player who hadn't really played very much. £42.5 million they thought was a great deal for a player like that. And even though he was very, very highly rated, I'm not sure that anyone really saw Cole Palmer producing the type of form that he has done this season. Everyone knew at City that he was a good player. Did people think that he was a 20-goal Premier League forward at 21 years old? Probably not. In hindsight now, it does look a little bit of a mistake for City.
Who have you got, Janusz, in this game?
Yeah, mistake, just quickly, Foden was more patient. Same situation, right? Sometimes you have to wait. If Pep Guardiola was absolutely sure that he was the man, he'd probably give him a time. But it could be a mistake. All coaches make mistakes. I hope that, it's a big game, right? Because against some of the big teams, he scored some goals. United 4, actually, I think, this season. But we know where United is. So this is the sort of game that I think if Chelsea are going to have a chance, by the way, then Cole Palmer is going to have to be at their best, because although I hear you, this is probably best time for Chelsea to do it. They have zero excuse not to do it. I still think that even with the fact that Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland and Manuel Kanji asked all out, it looks a bigger issue with Haaland, who, by the way, was non-existent in both legs. And I think they can deal without him. They have done it in the past. They'll do it again. John Stones will come in. And I still think that Manchester City will find a way to win a trophy and beat Chelsea here.